of the County Durham Teaching Assistants Activist Committee. They're about to have their second strike against the shameful behaviour of their employer, a Labour council. 0344 499 1000, that's a number to call. Anti-war never Hillary tweets, President Trump will have to decide between the neocons and rebuilding America. There is simply no money for both. And Leachy says if Trump discards the chaotic policy of regime change that Western governments have pursued, it should be applauded. Well, Leachy, I'm already applauding it. I just hope that it happens. Jan says, maybe I'm too cynical, but I think that the establishment has a lot to hide, and Mr. Mansfield would get to the truth. Well, I know Michael Mansfield QC extremely well and for many decades. There is no person on these islands more absolutely indefatigable in the pursuit of the truth and justice than Michael Mansfield. That's probably why he didn't get the job. Don Edgley says, no comment on the pro-Putin warmongers, though. Do say more, Don. Call me up and have a go if you think you're hard enough. I'm not even sure what that tweet even meant. I support Donald Trump's proposal to hold out an olive branch to the government of Russia. I support the idea of the Russian and American governments cooperating in the defeat of ISIS and Al-Qaeda and the others like them in the alphabet soup of fanatic extremist organizations that has cropped up over recent years. Why would that be exceptionable? Why would anybody be against that? Anybody who was against that is deeply suspicious to me. Louis Krasatkin says, if the government's austerity policies are so wrong, why hasn't a single Labour council set a no-cuts budget in defiance? Probably because all the councillors would be bankrupted if they did. Now, we're having trouble, I think, getting Gillian Iveson onto the telephone, which is a great pity, because I've wanted to discuss this issue for some weeks, because it illustrates the point that has long been known, that sometimes the worst employers are the people who wear the red ties and call themselves Labour. And Durham Council appear to be amongst that gallery. Gillian Iveson, the Vice President of the County Durham Teaching Assistants Activist Committee, is now on the line. Good evening, Gillian. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening, George.
Now, I've followed this dispute from the very beginning, as you possibly know, but many of our listeners will be here from the beginning.
Yeah, well, basically, a lot of us have worked for a number of years. Myself, I've worked for 30 years under the same contract. And last November, Durham Council decided that we are not worth the money that we have signed and agreed to on our salaries. We were agreed to work for a set number of hours, for a set number of weeks, for a set salary. And they've said, oh, sorry, no, we're going to have to take it away from you. Don't worry, though, you'll lose 23% of your salary. But if you work an extra 5 hours a week, it's only 10% of your salary. So that's okay then, isn't it, girls? And basically we've said, no, that is not okay. And because they can't now Eve, so we're currently working under notice, waiting for New Year's Eve when we're sacked.
Happy New Year from your Labour Council in County Durham. It was their proposal was illegal, wasn't it?
I would think so, yes. I mean, you sign a contract, you expect to be paid the contractual salary, yeah. Well, I don't get the problem in it. They've decided that they offered us an hourly rate in 2012. They're now reducing that hourly rate. They said that rate included for 52 weeks' pay. It really didn't. It included 195 days' pay. and they're paid over 12 months. That is totally different to being paid 52 weeks of the year.
Now, which union are the assistants in, and is the union fully backing you?
Well, the teaching assistants were split over 4 unions. Unite the Union had 1 member. Now, they've accepted. GMB had approximately 200 members, and they voted marginally to accept. Unison has 1,700 members. They voted massively to reject, and they've got the biggest ever strike mandate that Unison have had. 93% of workers have been driven to strike. ATL also had a 91% vote to strike. So basically we've got about 1,900 teaching assistants who had their first strike 2 days last week. We had an absolute massive rally outside County Hall with about 1,500 protesting.
And don't the councillors realise that they may be signing their own political death warrants by picking on a group of workers who could scarcely be more popular with the public?
Yeah, I don't think they expected the level of public support. I think they thought we'd just take it quietly. But no, we shout it all. We've got massive public support. We've got a Twitterati team who spread the word throughout the country to every union. We've got teams of lions who travel around the country, and we're getting the word out there that they cannot treat their employees this way.
And what about the local MPs? Have they not tried to intervene? I would if I was a local MP.
Yeah, certainly. Some of them have been a little bit supportive. When you meet them, they do sort of, oh, this is shocking, yeah, we'll take it to council. But nothing's come back yet. I mean, we met Jeremy Corbyn. I met him the night before Durham Gala. He was horrified. He stood up and told them they needed to get it sorted. There is a simple way. They can regrade. Now, that's been proved today in Derby. Derby Council have had the same situation. They're the only 2 councils in the country to have done this. And Derby have been fighting alongside us for a year now. They've said they will regrade the lowest level TAs only in Derby, which leaves the rest of them still struggling. Durham Council have said they can't regrade just TAs. It's not fair to everyone else. But yet it's fair to take our agreed salary. We just don't get the equality level there, George. It's not happening.
So you've worked there for 30 years and you're being sacked on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, I started work in 1986. There's some teaching assistants have worked longer than that. I think there was a lady who worked 37 years. She's now working in Asda. She cannot take the stress any longer. Another friend of mine, 17 years, she's now working as an NHS call handler. It's just the lack of experience that Durham Council are going to lose in their schools. But yet they say every child matters. Some of the dirty tricks that they've done recently is they're telling parents with special needs children to keep them at home during the strike. They've got breakfast clubs running with no food.
I saw that. I saw an advert for sport will be provided, but no food.
But no food, yeah. I mean, that's coming from a breakfast club.
The breakfast club. Now,
we've got children who've been watching DVDs last week when we were on strike because the teaching assistant support wasn't there for them.
Now, how is that not unfair dismissal, legally speaking? After 30 years, your employer unilaterally changes your contract, cuts your wages by 23%, and then sacks you because you don't accept it. How is that not unfair dismissal?
We think it is unfair dismissal. However, there's a little clause in a contract which an employee can dismiss you for some other substantial reason. And they claim that there's a risk of equal pay claims from other council members. So we said, OK, how many claims have Durham had using a TA as a comparator? Well, none. So we said, well, do you know how many's been in the country? And they said, well, none that we know of. But they said there might be, in the future. So we need to either sack you all or force you into poverty.
How many workers are they going to sack on New Year's Eve?
They said initially 2,700. I think because of teaching assistants, some have moved to other neighbouring authorities where they all pay more. It's about 2,500.
So a Labour council on New Year's Eve is going to sack 2,500 teaching assistants for refusing to accept a 23% wage cut.
Unbelievable, isn't it, George?
Well, I've been in politics a long, long time, and I've never quite heard anything like that. Norman Tebbit and Margaret Thatcher wouldn't have dared to do such a thing to a group of...
We'd be proud of Durham Council.
To a group of workers who could scarcely be more popular. I know the names of every teaching assistant who ever helped to teach all of my children. And all of my children remember them too. I meet them in the street and they ask me how my children are. It is your colleagues are jewels in the public service crown. And this is how a Labour council is treating you. I'm utterly...
the parents know. That's why we've got so much parent support. They know over and above what people go from their contracts. They go away on residentials, they stay for parents' evenings, staff meetings, they do the Christmas plays, they're in doing breakfast club. Nobody ever thinks of putting an overtime sheet in. It just doesn't happen. But all that goodwill has now gone.
I'm almost speechless, Gillian, to be perfectly honest. I'm glad you weren't. You spoke very well. Thank you very much indeed. Gillian Iveson, Vice President of County Durham's Teaching Assistants Activist Committee, on the eve of their second strike and on the countdown to being dismissed in a mass sacking of 2,500 teaching assistants by a Labour council. Now, if you've got a point of view on that, if you are one of those teaching assistants, if you are affected by this in any way, we want to hear from you. 0344 499 1000.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
Talk Radio.
We have ways of making you talk. With Jet2 Holidays.